I know remembering things is hard for some of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. As much as Trump and Republicans hate to accept it, we are still a country with laws. My Republican colleagues are willing to sacrifice safety for stupidity as long as it's loyal.
We've got another scorching takedown of MAGA by progressive Democratic star Jasmine Crockett as she lays into Pam Bondi and others in response to their incompetence and corruption. So buckle up, leave us a like. As I always say, helps the channel out a ton. It's free and we really appreciate it, so why not? And let's otherwise hop into the takedown with some fact checks and some context needed.
I know remembering things is hard for some of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. Like remembering not to add reporters into a Signal chat discussing military war plans. But let me remind my colleagues that it was Trump who decided to store national secrets and classified documents next to his oversized bathtub and toilet at Mar-a-Lago. It was Trump who took the documents out of the boxes and shared them with his guests. It was Trump who told his staff to move the boxes when the FBI was coming. And it was Trump who appointed Director Christopher Wray as head of the FBI, the same director that allowed the investigation to move forward. As much as Trump and Republicans hate to accept it, we are still a country with laws.
Mind you, this is a hearing 2 months into Trump's presidency about the FBI under Joe Biden. You can't write it any better than this, which was still headed up by a conservative. Actually, a Democrat has never led the FBI. But this is what MAGA thinks is useful to investigate with your taxpayer dollars. As they state, they won't investigate leaked classified battle plans because priorities. But Jasmine is bang on here, right? You want to talk about waste, fraud, and abuse. Look no further than the incompetence and corruption of the Trump administration. I mean, look no further than the $8 million a day that Elon Musk is getting. Look no further than the oil subs. Like, look no further than the Department of Defense. There's plenty of places you can point. Republicans are pointing at none of them, right? Look at Trump stealing documents, hiding them from the FBI, accidentally firing nuclear code workers and then having to rush to rehire them, paying Doge millions to misrepresent or outright lie about spending numbers. But like, Biden FBI bad or whatever.
Fact. Even prior to being confirmed by the Senate, Kash Patel was directing officials within the FBI to fire members within the Bureau simply because they worked on the lawful investigations into Trump. Fact. Patel failed to disclose his previous work and financial ties with the country of Qatar, a country that, had you had read the Mazars report, released last year by the House Oversight Committee, you would know paid close to $500,000 to Trump while he was president of the United States. Unsurprisingly, the FBI's Foreign Influence Task Force was recently disbanded, and the DOJ also cut back on its Foreign Agents Registration Act enforcement. Our enemies are jumping up and down now that we're doing their work for them. Another fact, Patel has never even been an FBI agent and is now leading the Bureau.
Party of merit, guys. Remember, it's hilarious because if you think like had Kamala won the election and someone of Patel's ethnicity and experience been appointed to this position by her, MAGA would be screaming DEI. But because he's willing to bend over and coddle Trump's little nutsack, it's all fine by them that he literally has no qualifications, no experience, no anything, not even like the intellect, if we're being honest, for this job. All while Trump is also pulling back protections from foreign influences or foreign governments, essentially bribing politicians and interfering in our politics. I wonder why he would do that. I wonder if it has anything to do with him being in Putin's pocket or the over $7 million that he made from like Saudi and foreign governments the last time he was in the office that came out in House Democrat Republican or House Democrat reporting, or the fact that he's just completely bought and paid for Miriam Adelson, Elon Musk. But yeah, guys, he's destroying the deep state.
Another fact, Patel, who rails against telework, what he calls lazy agents, was working part-time in and out of Las Vegas, commuting back and forth between there and DC while also living in the home of a GOP mega donor. Think about that for a second. Could you imagine what Republicans would have done had, say, James Comey had been living in New York part-time as the FBI director, and if his New York home was owned by, say, George Soros? Speaker Johnson would have forced a floor vote on articles of impeachment within days of this news coming out. But nevertheless, my Republican colleagues are willing to sacrifice safety for stupidity as long as it's loyal.
Few things to clear up here, because I really hate how much George Soros gets drug under the mud for no reason other than anti-Semitism. Like, here's a wealth comparison between George Soros and Elon Musk. As you can see, the little blip here, George Soros. The literal wealthiest person in the world, Elon Musk. George Soros is a random liberal billionaire, which, as far as billionaires go, in my opinion, I'm sure everyone who watches this channel knows that I think the world could do without billionaires, right? I think that billionaires probably shouldn't exist. We shouldn't structure our economy in a way that people can amass this kinds of wealth. But with that being said, as far as billionaires go, George Soros has donated over 64% of his wealth to all kinds of causes, a portion of that to politics, but to to fight poverty. 35 million he's sent to New York for underprivileged families to give them hundreds of dollars on benefit cards. Like, this is like outside the scope of what the government does. He sent it globally to fight like disease and stuff. MAGA hates him because he's Jewish. Don't mistake that. They're anti-Semitic. He's a rich Jewish man. And especially like 8 years ago, the globalists, rich Jews control the world. That kind of conspiracy was pretty prevalent on the right. I mean, even Trump pushed it as he was running for his first term. And it's something you just still see exist. This is why Soros was a huge problem. This is why, now Zuckerberg, he defends Trump. So he's the good guy now. But why Zuckerberg was such a problem for a long time, despite not even donating to Biden in 2020, because they're Jewish and rich. And that's why Elon Musk, Vivek, all these other billionaires, they're the good billionaires. Soros has never been involved with political campaigns. He's never been on the campaign trail. He's never had his finger on the government or anything. If you look at the 2024 election cycle, or you look at even the special election in Wisconsin, not the special election, but the Supreme Court election, the amount that Elon Musk is spending literally dwarfs that of George Soros, right? All while Elon is also doing it for his own personal gain. He's donating to state Supreme Court elections in Wisconsin, where he also has a lawsuit in Wisconsin that is set to go to the Supreme Court. Soros, on the other hand, spends almost exclusively his political donations funding politicians for criminal justice reform. That's it. To fight like discrimination in the criminal justice system. As a white Jewish billionaire, someone who would never have to deal with that, right? But we're supposed to believe that he's the evil one, and the guy who only donates to Trump and those voting for Trump while making money from the government and pushing for things directly in his best interests and trying to defund things those below him rely on, like Medicaid and Social Security, that's the billionaire looking out for the interests of the working class and not trying to line his pockets. But the guy donating 64% of his wealth, evil.